So Tanya, thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to talk about, how your space is evolving at BCD, especially from an operational perspective.
Yeah.
And maybe starting off, there's so much attention being given to like the booking experience, and yet traveler satisfaction, I presume, is really affected by what happens behind the scenes, the operations, the servicing. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah. Well, I think the lines are getting blurry between where the technology is going and where service is. Service is always going to be key. And I think that's one of the things that sets BCD ahead, is the people that we have, the consultants that we have, and how we make sure that we're there for our travelers and that we set up things that a traveler needs. And we're flexible in that way with kind of setting boundaries and then also looking at what kind of technologies can also assist the consultants so that that service delivery is just better and on point, and that we're getting to know our travelers and being able to kind of understand or know what they want before they maybe even tell us.
I think that's one of the great things about BCD, that customer centricity and how you adapt models to meet the needs of individual customers. Can you give me an example where that's really kind of shined brightly and a towering example of that?
Yeah, we just recently implemented a life science client. And as we went along with the implementation, as always, you learn different things as you're bringing on a new customer. And they had been with their previous TMC for a while. And we realized during that process that we kind of needed to adapt and change for their HCP processes. And not only were we able to customize to that, we were able to look at different technologies we could put in play and different processes that we could make so that it would make their process easier, and so that we could make their travelers happy. And, it was bumpy at first, I will say, but we've really come over it, and we've gotten great compliments, and we've really been able to evolve what that looks like. And so I think that just shows how BCD can really adapt quickly, understand what a customer needs, and then deliver that.
Wonderful. One of the things we've talked about in the industry is just this notion of content fragmentation. Mm-hmm. And so when you're tackling that with your teams, what's the implication of that for the day-to-day operations? How do you tackle that? What's the challenge involved?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is the consultants have always had a process that they've used for a long time. So it's kind of getting over the hurdle for them to see how this is going to be good for them. What's the delighter for them? What are they going to get from this fragmentation, or ways that they're going to be able to service their travelers better? And I think that's been kind of the hardest part, especially when there's so much unknown. So why are you delivering something that we don't know on? And that's probably the hardest part, is making sure you're educating everybody on, we're all in this together, we're all learning together, we're trying to make things better, we need your feedback for it to get there. But the biggest thing is just having the consultants understand, and then making sure that you can still service the traveler like you need to, because the traveler on the other side doesn't realize what you're going through on your side.
Right. And obviously that's one of our core promises to our customers, is we want to solve that fragmentation for you. So how we deliver all the content in one place through one set of APIs that has the booking and service experience that you would expect. Presumably that has a lot of value to you in your role and for your teams.
Well, and that's where we've seen the biggest value, right? Being able to work with Sabre on how we can deliver that to our consultants to ensure the technology is in their hands. Now, booking a reservation, as we always say, is easy. It's the servicing part. Right. And as we know, we just went through some storms, and how do you service? And the industry hasn't evolved yet that continues to be a self-service part of the industry. It's where you have to have a consultant. And the easier that we can make that for them, then the better that we can have our travelers and our joint customers.
Great. What are some of the technologies that you're deploying in kind of that space to help with those processes? And, we were just talking with Yanis about some of this from all the architecture and platforms that he's building, but what are some of the things that are unique to BCD that you're helping, with that consultant productivity?
Agent source is a big thing that we're putting into play. That's helping with the consultants and not only leading them into what content's the best content, but also it's helping them with policy and guiding them along with the traveler attributes and understanding who we're talking to, maybe what we need to deliver, building the policy in and the knowledge in so that they don't have to go into different places to get that information. So really streamlining all of the technology for us. So it's been a good ride on that, definitely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Talk to me about talent, right? So the talent that is available in the industry we've talked about is how do we attract new talent in the space? This would probably be really germane to your area. So what's kind of the latest trend on that? How do you attract new talent to BCD? How do you think about training and continued development?
Yeah, it's a balance right now because we're kind of in this new entrance with having more point and click technology, but you still need to have what new people might say is a programmer type of knowledge. And so right now it's been a balance of trying to make sure that we're getting the right talent in the door, where we've got still the veterans, as I call them, that understand the industry really well, but that we're getting new talent that understands how technology is evolving and moving forward. BCD is such a great company, though, and we've had such a longevity and family owned, and that attracts talent in itself. And our talent attracts people to come in. So we constantly are bringing in new people to the industry and getting them upskilled, and we get lots of referrals from just within the organization. But it is something we've got to really focus on over the next few years and ensure we've got that right kind of service-oriented mentality coming into the
Yeah,
industry.
yeah, absolutely. We often talk about our relationship from a technology provider to BCD as being, the core connectivity to our marketplace. But I know in the last couple of years, we've deployed a lot of solutions specific to the consultant kind of life cycle and workflows. How is that creating value for you?
Well, the consultants are loving all the different point and click. They're seeing a lot more access to information that they need. The speed of the technology is kind of increasing. So it's really been a great journey. They're seeing how we're together working to try to make things easier for them. And that's been a great deployment throughout, where if it's been with Sabre profiles or if it's been with our different tools, the trip proposal. I mean, they're seeing how we're really focused on trying to move the industry forward and make their jobs easier.
And ultimately, hopefully, leading to customer satisfaction.
Exactly, those top scores that we want.
Tanya, one of the things we often talk about is these large enterprise customers that you support today, complexity of their programs, and that spans, the different multitude of geographies that they operate in. What kind of complexity does that bring to supporting them operationally? And, how do you address that through technology?
Yeah, I mean, that's where we have to make sure that we're always on in operations 24/7. So you have to make sure that you're understanding the different cultures. You've got to make sure that you're understanding the different consultants you're working with around the world and also the traveler needs, but also making sure you have the right content. And again, partnering with Sabre and your technology, we've been able to have those carriers that are in those markets that are super important for those travelers. But it's also, one of those challenges too, when you're dealing with a big, larger global that everyone understands what they're managing to, what those clients' needs are. You go into the APAC market, they're going to want more email. You go into the US market, they're a little bit more forward thinking. You go into Latin America, it's very, very high touch. So you've got to keep that in mind when you're hiring, when you're deploying technology, and when you're making sure that you're still servicing your customer appropriately.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Yeah.